What are some things that you see that you think would be helpful for someone who's never read at an open mic before?
An open mic can be a way, like a part of that, like when and where people gather, but like it's got to be more than that too. I really hate this idea of poetry or writing as like a lonely art form. We can like keep legends coming through the scene. We just have to like create the soil for them to grow in.
If you are thinking about running your own open mic, going to your own open mic, these are some things that you need to be considering. Guys, I'm Geoff with The Verses. We are here with Nathan McDowell, and we'll be talking about poetry open mics. Both of us run open mics. Yep. We're based in Columbus, Ohio. How long have you been running your guys' open mic for?
Our open mic, the Village Poetry Open Mic, has been going for about like half a year now, I think. We started in, I believe it was October of 2023, yeah.
And what kind of inspired you to get started with like, you know what, we need an open mic, this is going to be us, this is going to be our thing?
What inspired me to start the open mic? So, you know, we're here recording this right now at $2 Radio headquarters. I had worked there for years previous to when we started the open mic, right? And so my favorite part of the job was always like cultural programming, I guess is like what I thought of it as. And I just have always really valued spaces like this and the way that they have this like opportunity to like not only create cultural programming, but stuff that people are really engaging with. You know, like you're not just going to a show and passively getting into something, you are getting on stage yourself or watching your like best friend get on stage, right? Like I think that being able to interact with art in that way is just pivotal. I just like, you know, it's served me as an artist in the past. I've seen it serve other really incredible artists. And I think that it's just a net benefit for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Would you say that like before you even started your own, were you active in attending other ones as well?
I'd say pretty active in attending other ones. I'd say that, you know, maybe the older I've gotten, the harder it is to get me out of the house sometimes. So hosting my own like helps me, you know, make sure I'm getting engaged that way. But yeah, you know, here at $2 Radio, when I started, there was a poetry slam every Saturday, you know, and I would work that event once a month when it came up, and that was incredible. I would try to make it up to the open mic at Cafe Kerouac, you know, like as much as possible. So yeah, man, I mean, these have always been important to me, even like before I moved to Columbus. Yeah.
When you were like attending open mics, what are some things that you saw that you liked versus some things you saw and you're like, you know what, when I do my own show, I want to handle it this way?
I really, I think that's something that I'm still reaching for, since we're a newer open mic, is the sort of like real like family kind of setting that like an open mic can have. You know, it's usually like there's a core group of regulars that are going every time. It can even get a sort of like Rocky Horror Picture Shows sort of like inside jokes. You know what I mean? Like we've all been to the open mics like where like, you know, there's like a call and response sort of thing, you know, and I think that those things have to come naturally, but I love that aspect of an open mic. I wanted to differentiate between, and I don't think there's any place in Columbus that is like bad about this, but like I think we've all been to like art scenes where like things are a little like competitive and like almost like too sassy or something, you know what I mean? And that never appealed to me. Like I wanted like people who, I feel like that can leave people out sometimes, you know, so I wanted people who never felt comfortable getting on the stage before to have a place where they felt comfortable. The thing I'm most proud of still was like having this a mom reach out to me because like her 15-year-old wanted to like do an open mic, right? And so this was like the first time that she ever went on stage, and it was very brave. I mean, it was like really intense work and it was amazing. And so who knows what, you know what I mean? Maybe this will just be a core memory for her. Maybe she'll go on and like get really into poetry. And so to be able to be part of that journey, you know, was something that's like what I really want to push into, you know.
How do you think you cultivated an environment where someone who maybe hasn't performed before feels welcome?
Yeah.
It feels like this is a place where I can actually contribute and I'm actually willing to participate instead of like just sitting in the back.
That's a good question. I mean, I think that there are some things that I'm hesitant of doing because I don't want to like. There's some ways in which I think people try to like reach out to like invite people in where like it almost feels like it's more about their ego, you know, like they want something out of like trying to bring more people in. And I don't want to do that. Like, I just want to like create the space where like, if you decide that this looks cool, like you should know you feel safe. I'm not trying to like bring something out of those people. Right. And I feel like a lot of times in like my career and like with books and art that I always wondered if like I had that much to offer, you know, and I realized that I think like I just have like this like very genuine enthusiasm that like I didn't rate that highly. I was just like, that's just how I am. And I think that like just from interacting with people, that has paid off. You know what I mean? Like I think that a lot of people have just talked about how like, you know, how comfortable they felt. And it's just because I get excited about poetry, you know? So I'm glad that that's been able to translate into, you know, something good, like bringing more people in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In terms of those people that you are bringing in, are there any common threads that you've identified? Like, oh, I'm seeing that our community seems to be catering especially to this group of people.
I would say that I have noticed like a lot of sort of queer and neurodivergent poets like coming to the events. And like I said, you know, I don't do anything to try to be like, hey, you know, we really want this kind of person, because I feel like that can feel exploitive. But yeah, I think we've been lucky enough to like have a lot of people from those communities feel like comfortable at $2 radio. So like maybe it's, you know, they associate what they like about this place, and then, you know, our open mic benefited from that. You know, I think that there's a lot of, thankfully, more people in those communities also just like turning towards art and like making, you know, more art, it seems to me. So, you know, I'm not exactly sure why, but those are like some common threads that I've noticed. Yeah.
Let's speak more to venue, because I think venue does have an impact on the type of character that the show can kind of take on.
Yeah.
So like, how would you describe this venue just in general, and also your relationship in terms of starting the show here?
Yeah. To me, like it was always going to be at this venue, you know. Like I kind of said, like before I even, like when I still worked here, before I knew that I would be the host, because I just wanted to like have an open mic here and was like looking for a host. And then I realized, oh, I guess I'm the one to do it. But like a lot of the things that I value about open mics in general are things that I've learned from $2 radio, you know, which is the sort of like, you don't need this sort of upper register, upper class of like artists to deign your work worthy. You can just get together and do it yourself, you know? And so it was, yeah, like it was a natural for me to choose $2 radio because it really embodies why I wanted to do an open mic in the first place. And I don't know, I think that, you know, a lot of those qualities that I mentioned about just sort of being open and accepting in general are things that, you know, that they have embodied over the years, right? You know, whether it's like the books that they carry, you know, shows that kind of like the passions that they have and what they focus on, and just the way that we interact with everyone who comes through the door, you know. I think that the precedent has been set that, you know, this is like a safe and welcoming space. You know?
You also mentioned that the original intention was maybe not being the host.
Yeah. That's it. No, that's very true. Yeah, that is, I'm very much sort of like doing this. I think that I've been checking in with myself to where like I sort of want to be like upfront on the stage as little as possible. Like I think that like sometimes I'm almost like going a little too far, just being like, oh, I don't want to make this about me in any way when I can make it a little bit about me, you know? But no, I just wanted there to be an open mic. It wasn't like I had this like strong urge to get on stage and like get the attention that way. I just like kind of felt like someone had to do it. And so over time I realized that it was me, you know? Yeah.
When you were looking for hosts, what sort of characteristics were you especially interested in?
What was I looking for? I mean, projecting confidence on a stage is a very hard thing to do. It's something that I kind of struggle with to do. So I admire people that do it well, that can like be fun and maybe a little bit cheeky, but in a welcoming way. You know what I mean? Fun enough to keep the energy going, but also like not to be too cynical and, you know, make it weird. I also was mindful when I was starting it that like we're in this sort of weird wave of where we are with like the Columbus poetry scene, right? Because there were so many open mics. Like there was at one point, I talked to a lot of people who have been here for a long time that say this, that like there was a weekly like thing you could do every night, you know? And some of those have retired, some of those have like gone lost, you know, over time. And we still have a lot of options, right? Like we both have an open mic. You have one that's weekly. There's still one at Cafe Kerouac that's weekly. But I don't know. I just wanted to contribute to that scene. And so I guess what I was getting to is that I was looking for really someone younger than me. You know what I mean? Like someone that was going to like grow roots in this and start it and keep something going for a while, which, you know, maybe that'll come with time, right? Like find someone that can take it over when I'm getting too crouched, you know, taking and keep it going, I guess. You know? Yeah.
Can you speak more to legacy? Because it kind of sounds like you want this, it's not about you, it's about creating something that sustains itself in some way.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's, you know, so we are, if you know who to ask or if you were around it a long time, you can see that we are carrying on like, or there is a Columbus poetry legacy to carry on, right? Like we have a lot of like world-renowned poets, sometimes that like get the attention they deserve, sometimes that they don't, you know, which is something that I always think is funny, is that there's like all these poets around here who are, I think, like legends, and, you know, only part of the city even knows that, you know, like, but there was a lot of the poets who are legends around here are not people who kind of like had a big career and then came here, you know what I mean? They didn't like bring a success from somewhere else. They were like homegrown talents, you know what I mean? And so that's so important. And we clearly have the like artistic integrity here, you know, we can like keep legends coming through the scene. We just have to like create the soil for them to grow in, you know, and you never know who it's going to be, you know what I mean? Like, that's why like it's important for the door to be open to everybody, because like maybe it's someone who like has been writing all their life and they're dedicated and they're going to, you know, get great success eventually, but also like maybe it's somebody who like has never written in their life, but like a friend brought them to an open mic, you know what I mean? Who like is discovering a talent for the first time that they didn't know that they had, you know? I want, the door in the past has been open to everybody. It's been such a generous scene, you know? And so like, that is the legacy that I want to keep going. It's important that like, for that next great artist to come through, but also for everyone to just be able to connect, you know, like one-on-one with poetry in some way, you know?
What are some things that you see that you think would be helpful for someone who's never read at an open mic before, maybe never even attended? What do you think are some helpful guidelines to consider for someone who's about to read a piece for the first time?
What are about sort of like getting comfortable like on the stage maybe? You know, what's funny is like I've been involved with poetry in some ways for a long time, right? But I was never as much of a stage poet really. And so something that just in the last few years that someone, you know, who has been doing this for longer, right, kind of taught me is like the importance of just reading it out loud before you get on stage. You know, that sounds so simple, but like for a lot of people, it is scary to get on stage. So I think a lot of us do not, you know, you might like recite it in your head and it's easy for it to sound right in your head. because that's not your natural speaking voice, right? Like, so to be able to hear yourself and catch where you actually, your voice catches and you aren't delivering in your way, like that's like, it's very simple, but that is like one advice of like, if you're not doing that, you have to do that, right? Do you like,
yeah, man, I think
where you have to,
I think that you see it on page and you're like, oh, I can read through this easy. But the problem is you don't really have a sense of the rhythm until you actually say it out loud. So there's going to be moments when you're reciting on stage where it's like, oh, wow, it's hard for me to say like a TH sound with a D sound and another TH sound. Like that day, I said, you get stuck, you know what I mean?
You get stuck for sure. And then you don't even like, the last time like I was on a stage recently and I like feel like I like pronounced everything fine, you know what I mean? Like, but I like was sort of like zoned out when I did it, you know what I mean? And it's like a piece where like I have like deeper emotional connection to it, so I wanted to like sit with the sentences that like meant more to me, you know what I mean? Like there's like just hearing it out loud, you're like engaging with it on multiple levels, and you are going to embody the piece more too, you know? Yeah.
I think something else I see just in terms of actually reciting the poem is a lot of people, I think it's unfortunate. Like when we're in school, we're asked to read something out loud. Everyone has their reading voice, you know?
Yeah.
I like talk like this to guys.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people are taking that kind of elementary school, middle school, high school reading voice and applying it to the stage.
Yeah.
And there's just some like, I teach pronunciation, and there's lots of little things you can do to dramatically increase the power of what you're saying. Like for instance, incorporating pauses. And changing your speed, you know, like some sections you're pulling going fast, some sections going slow.
Yeah.
Change your pitch level. So it's like, if I'm high right now, maybe the next time I'll go lower, and then the next time I'll go lower. You know, like just these little techniques that create a very different impact for your audience.
I agree. And I think that like, you know, everyone probably has their different things they struggle with, but like the pause thing like makes a lot of sense to me, because when I was newer to it and I was really nervous, I would like speed through it, you know? And so like, knowing that you are putting a pause in like flips a trigger in my brain to where like it's okay to like have blank space in the performance, you know what I mean? Like that's not just me like stuttering, that's like I did that on purpose, you know? Like it can be scary, you know? So yeah, and that's like just getting practice with it before you get into it. That's a good point.
Would you say that, or let me rephrase, how do you think that organizing open mics and attending open mics has helped you as a poet?
I think that I kind of mentioned this like before we got on camera, but like I really hate this idea of poetry or writing as like a lonely art form, you know? It can be really easy to get lost in your own head when you're thinking about what you work, but like I think that we both like think that poetry and art in general is all about trying to engage with an audience in some world. You're trying to engage with the world, you know, whether it's like what you're writing about or the people that you need to share something with. And remembering that you are not just like speaking to yourself for the fun of it, or, you know, if you are, that's fine, but then you're probably not going to an open mic, right? Like that is you engaging with the world. So remembering like that there are people out there that you like have something important enough that you need to share with them, you know, learning like what moves other people can like unlock things in you that you didn't even know mattered to you. You know what I mean? Like it's not, it helps the work of poetry, but it also just like is its own reward in a way, you know, to get out there and like hear what matters enough to other people for them to share like that, right?
Yeah. With that in mind, how important is it, do you think, for poets to seek opportunities to lead their own open mics?
I think that it could be good. You know, I think that like it takes all kinds, right? Like, you know, some people want to be a leader. Some people might not want to be a leader, but want to get something done, right? And, you know, some people just like, I've had people come up to me at the open mic before and be like, is it okay that I didn't bring anything to read? I'm like, we need an audience too, man. You know what I mean? Like everybody needs to be a part of it. But starting your own open mic has been very beneficial for me, because it has given me the chance to be like, I have this passion, I have this this thing I love doing, this thing I want to do. And there are people out there that also care enough to do it. Like this was just a silly idea I had. And now, like I get a bunch of strangers in a room once a month to like open up about important stuff in their life. You know what I mean? Like it can be very rewarding. I mean, I don't think everyone needs to do it. You can find what niche you filled, but yeah, it's great.
Kind of thinking about final thoughts and things. What would you like to see the Village open mic become, let's say like 5 years now?
5 years from now? I mean, on a practical level, I'm wondering if we'll start doing it more, Like I started right now it's once a month because that's like what I can handle. So one thing as the only host of it. And I also wanted to leave room for like the energy to build. Then if we need more, we'll start doing more. But what I really want is that like someone finding out that they love poetry now. You know what I mean? Like someone who like has always written but was too scared to go on stage, or like, like has been wanting to engage with it, like finding out that like they love doing it is rewarding for them and they have a room full of people who want to share that with them. I mean, that's like a vague thing, but that's really what I want. You know what I mean? Like I think if we're lucky, then, we'll get somebody who like blossoms under this like open mic, but really just like everybody, like I want new poets, Yeah. Yeah.
Nathan, any final thoughts?
I think so, man. Yeah. I wish I had like thought of more questions to ask. Like I also because I want to know more about like how yours is going and like what the like journey has meant to you too. That last question you asked about like what does it like what does hosting an open mic mean to you? I'm kind of curious about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think again we were both in the city at a time when there were so many shows, and now there's not.
Yeah.
We're at a time where, in terms of weekly shows, we're one of like 2 or 3.
Right.
Just not a whole lot. A big part of what the Versus is about is really, we're professional poetry development.
Mm-hmm.
A part of that's not included in that kind of like 2-second pitch is that with a focus on like underrepresented voices.
Yeah.
And one way that we cater to that isn't just like racially or economically. It's also just in terms of the area of the town we're in. We're on the west side. Ain't much happening artistically on the west side. So I think it's important to have that sort of space there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think creating a show just to create a show, that's not something I can really advocate for. Like I think really trying to figure out your why, figure out the need that you're trying to fill.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another thing is that a lot of shows are just a show and that's it. It's the end all be all. Like, hey, it's the open mic, and then you come to open mic, and then that's okay. See you next month or see you next week.
Yeah.
Whereas for us, it's weird. The open mic, I view it more as just one of the gateways into the larger things that we're doing.
Yeah.
It's like, for instance, we have the open mic, but we have a residency, we have a poetry journal that takes time to do, so I'm slow with it, but we got at least one. That's good. We have a retreat that's literally happening later this week.
That's awesome.
We have workshops.
Yeah.
We're partnering, for instance, with the library, with like random things. It's like it's all part of an ecosystem.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think that, can't remember who said this, and I can't remember, exactly how he said it too, but about how like, an open mic is not the same thing as community, right? Like community is community, and an open mic can be a way, like a part of that, like when and where people gather, but like it's got to be more than that too. So this kind of sprang naturally out of it has the same name as like I also do a workshop, right? Village Poetry Workshop. And it's open to everybody, but it's all just about like, we all have the shared interests. We don't need like anyone else with qualifications or credentials or degrees to like tell us what to do. We are going to come together and support each other. You know what I mean? So I agree that like having it, like open mics are important, but hopefully that's just a part of the larger.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're engaging in more ways.
Yeah. So you can find people to meet. Like a lot of times, people who never heard of you before, the open mic might be the way. It's your gateway.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whereas, so I think from an exposure element, it's really helpful. But I think the other things, like if you're doing like a poetry workshop, well, now we're starting to kind of narrow in. You know what I mean? So it's like the people who are more interested in poetry, now we're like kind of targeting them too. So we're able to hit people at different points based on where they are. Whereas if you just have an open mic, you know, there's some poets who aren't interested in going to open mics anymore. I'll be out, like for me, like I go to open mics, you know, to support them, but I'm much less interested in going to open mics to attend an open mic.
Yeah.
Like I don't have that itch anymore.
Yeah.
You know, but if a place is offering workshops or things like that, that might be something I'm leaning more towards. So like you know, everything you offer is aimed at and attracts a different group of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because there are some people where like the open mic will be all they need. And that's, you know, I definitely think that, you know, poetry can be so many different things for different people. You know, for some people, it can just be like writing something to get your thoughts out and never sharing it with anyone. You know? And if that's what you want, that's great, you know. But I feel like open mics can be rooted a little bit. You know, it keeps me out there like talking to other people. But I do kind of like lean more into like I'm trying to like work more on craft myself. You know what I mean? So like getting together with people in that way, like, you know, workshopping a piece, like it's great, man. I mean, like I have like it, and it's like another fun sorts of communal pride. Like we have like poets that like are getting poems published that like we all like workshop together, and like that's a blast, right? You know, to like see that kind of success. Or some of the people that attend both the workshop and the open mic like have like their own readings that they're gonna be having. You know what I mean? So it does like it can be enough for some people, and it can be a launching pad, like if you're really trying to engage more deeply. Yeah.
Cool. Nathan, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you for coming.
Guys, keep us out. Look out if you're in Columbus for Village Poetry Open Mic, which is on first Thursday.
First Thursday, yeah.
Right here. This cafe is a $2 radio headquarters at 8 o'clock. It's free.
It's free.
It's free. Cool. Then you can also catch us every Friday at Third Way Cafe on the west side. We'll see you guys later.